Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NNN News Q&A with John. How are you doing tonight, John?
Oh, very well, thank you. Thanks for being here, everyone. It's very exciting. It's my first time participating in something like this.
Well, we're so happy to have you here tonight. Now, I think we should just get right into some of the questions here. Uh, we wanted to know is what is one of the best ways to approach an open dialogue about veganism to somebody who may be biased against it. So I'm thinking of a meat eater or maybe a Trump supporter. Well, it's a degenerate basically.
Yeah, well, maybe you could remind them of times in their life when they lived their values and treated their fellow beings with respect. Maybe they had they met a dog or a cat one day and they didn't want to kick their dog or cat. They wanted to be kind to them. So just remind them that they are inherently, nice, good people, and they just want to live. Know, living their values is a win all around for themselves, for the planet, and the animals, and they don't have to change their lifestyles very much at all. Say you're grocery store shopping, instead of buying cow's milk, you could buy a plant-based milk. Just
No.
by picking up a different carton, you're making a big difference for animals. And so there's vegan versions of everything nowadays. So you can just enjoy all the foods that you presently enjoy. Just have the vegan versions. Like, I like burgers just as much as everyone else. I'll just have a veggie burger instead of a burger made from flesh from murdered animals.
And so is that a good way? Let's say somebody's struggling to maintain their veganism. Is that a good way to look for substitutes to things that maybe they had liked previously? If there's somebody
Yeah,
struggling to
definitely.
maintain
Like,
it, yeah.
yeah, whatever, uh, the flesh and secretions from animals that you used to eat, if you just knock them off and then you just eat, like, say you used to have a pork chop and potatoes and some veggies. If you just take away the dead pig and then you just have what's left, it might not be as good for you. So just go find something to replace that with. You know,
Mhm.
and
I,
yeah,
I
I don't
was
know.
wondering, do you do any of the any crystals, any quartz, any of those to sort of help heal or sanctify the body? Are you into any of that?
No, no, I'm not into any of that. As far as I know, I don't know of any scientific proof that has shown that
Mm-hmm.
crystals have any benefits to human beings.
Oh,
And I
very
think it'd be
interesting.
better to leave them in the ground. There's a story behind everything. If there's a crystal, you got to think what workers were exploited to get that out of the ground and what environmental destruction was wreaked. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Uh, John, what is your favorite song that you've ever written and recorded for YouTube?
Thank you for asking. Probably the big hit song "Don't Insult" that I made with my dear friends
Mm-hmm.
Dan and Diane, who are no longer with us. They
Oh,
both
I'm sorry
passed
to hear
away,
that.
and so yeah, they were like family to me. I just loved them very much, and I think about them still every single day. But that was very special to me that we made that song. We
Mm-hmm.
spoke out against speciesism. It's very common for people to use the names of animals as insults. Probably pig is the most common one that's used. And but what pig? Even like calling cops pigs. I don't know of any pigs who are going around, shooting shooting people and stuff like that. So, no pig has ever hurt me.
Yeah, we this is a comment from the YouTube audience from Evan Williams, a longtime supporter, and they say the newest song about non-binary and trans bathrooms was "Fire." Uh, what
Thank you.
inspired you to make that song? Because I think it's a hot button issue. And it's something that I think you brought a lot of interest to. So can you explain what was the inspiration for that song?
Thank you. Well, my friend Orion wrote the lyrics for that one, and they've been having some hard times with that. Having family members, for instance, a grandmother, who will use their dead name still, and refer to them with the wrong pronouns and that sort of thing. So yeah, so Orion wrote the lyrics, and I thought Orion has very good points. Why are we forcing people to fit in with the gender binary just because they want to go empty their bladder?
Yeah.
It's just so ridiculous. So we need to work on that in our society and making all places more inclusive.
Oh, wow, that's a great point
Thank you.
there. Let me get another question pulled up here. One second here. we um, sorry about that. Uh, so some people have tried to imply that you can somehow hunt ethically. Do you think there's any possibility of this, or is this just completely BS?
Yeah, well, I like being alive very much, and if I were ever in a situation where I was in the far north and there were no grocery stores around and there was just snow and I was freezing and I was like starving to death, I'd be open to hunting just to,
Hmm.
help myself stay alive. But I've never been in that situation. I've always been in cities where there are grocery stores and there's plant foods all around. So another question is why would I choose to eat flesh and secretions from tortured and murdered animals when I have access to all these plant foods? So, yeah, and I think that for people who are in the far north, think we need to have more compassion for them and help them to get all their needs met. Maybe we could have fully automated greenhouse
And
towers
and
around the
find a
world.
way
And
for them to be able to go vegan, even.
yeah, definitely. And like all the subsidies, the government subsidies that are going
Sure.
towards funding animal exploitation. Imagine if all those subsidies went towards helping indigenous peoples and helping people to have access to fruits and veggies. Yeah.
I was wondering about that. So, if let's dream and imagine that we somehow got a fully vegan world, what could what are the changes that we could see from that? What are the positive changes?
Yeah, definitely. Well, right now, for instance, a lot of fruits and veggies are very expensive. And imagine if all the government subsidies ended because we're no longer farming animals, if all those subsidies went to fruit and veggie farmers, and so the price of healthy foods would go down. And I'd like to see a
Uh-huh.
world where we even make them free because I've done dumpster diving in front of and behind grocery stores and they throw away so much food. And so much food is considered ugly that doesn't
Yeah.
even end up in the grocery store. So I think we definitely have the technology and the ability to make food free for everyone. And so everyone would be a lot healthier. It'd be a lot better for the animals, of course, and be better for the planet.
And we would be able to better control people's diets so people aren't eating crazy stuff that's awful for them. Uh, this question
Yeah.
comes from Dawn. They ask, John, what is the catalyst for you to begin your path down veganism and music, and how are they sort of intertwined?
Thanks for asking. Well, with veganism, I was born in 1970, and so in 1998, I was 27 years old, I remember, and a coworker of mine at the time, she saw a leather coat I was wearing, and she said, "John, that coat
Yeah.
disgusts me." And then I thought her language was really strong, but it got me thinking. And then I asked her about that, and we talked about the animals. And then I got rid of the coat. And then another coworker of mine's, she was a vegetarian, and she said, "Hey, John, did you know that eating animals has been linked to cancer?" And then I went to the library to look that up, and then I saw a book called Old MacDonald's Factory Farm, and I read about the cruelty and animal agribusinesses, and I felt terrible about what's happening to animals. So that's what got me going vegan. And then with music, I've been into music for a long time. I started playing drums when I was 16 years old. And even when I was in high school, I remember writing lyrics, when I should have been listening to the teacher and just fantasizing about being in a band one day. And then I was in bands for quite a long time. Then when I got out of playing bands, and I had a guitar, and right away when I started writing my own songs, I started writing about animal rights right away just because I was so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And then I think it was in 2010 where my brother Derek, he had a video camera that he was bored of, and he said, "Hey, John, do you want to buy my video camera? I'll sell it to you for half price." And my first reaction was, what the heck would I do with a video camera? But then I just started, I thought, hey, I'll make a song. And then I started uploading videos. And I don't remember what the first one was because my original YouTube channel got taken down. YouTube took down three of my videos within about a 24-hour period. Then they just wiped out my whole channel because they said I violated their community guidelines. So fortunately, my new channel, it's been up ever since then, and I haven't had it taken
Well,
down yet.
that's
So
good.
thank you.
We got a question from the audience here, so let's pull in for 4012, who has a question about metal bands. So ask your question, 4012.
Um, oopsie.
Is everything good? Good to go?
Ah,
Do all
Yes.
okay, okay.
Sorry. Was having a moment.
Yeah, it's all right.
I would like to. Sorry, John. So, I am a music enthusiast too, and I would like to. I wanted to ask you if you like other metal bands like Metallica, Deftones, Slipknot, like all like. What do you think of the music? Because I really appreciate how it helps me get my feelings out, and I wonder how you feel about it.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I love all styles of music, and I like Metallica. You mentioned I've seen them in concert, and back when I played drums in bands, sometimes we would play Metallica songs. I remember the song "Enter Sandman" had just came out. It was a new song, and we had a gig at a club, and we played that, and I just loved it, and it really got the audience thrilled. You just hearing, and a lot of people love that heavy music, and yeah, as far as helping you get your emotions out. I remember in my mid 20s, I was really into lifting weights, and I would listen to heavy music when I was lifting weights, and it would get me all pumped up and help me lift heavy stuff. And just with the state of the world, it's really frustrating here in late stage capitalism. A lot of people are going through a very hard time paying bills and everything, and so I think that music can help us get through this hard time.
Awesome. And I have a member named Inflammator who I'm inviting now who would like to ask you a question. And here you go.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Well, hello.
Hello, Inflammatory.
Hello.
Ask your question, please, and thank you.
Yeah. So I'm new to the server, and I was just wondering if you could tell me about like who you are, what you do, because I'm not really sure who you are.
My name's John Sakars, and I'm in Canada, Niagara Falls, Ontario. Well, I'd like to say that in the northern part of Turtle Island, because I don't really recognize Canada and the U.S. as being legitimate countries. I think of this as all being Turtle Islands. And I'm a YouTuber. I have over 700 videos on YouTube, and a lot of them are music videos. I'm very much into making music, and my channel is all about different social justice issues. So I started in the beginning writing about animal rights a lot and veganism, but now I write about a lot of human rights issues too and environmental issues. And I want to live in a world where everyone's happy, safe, and free. I consider myself a total liberationist. I want everyone to be liberated and have all their needs met.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have another question, Gilbert?
Yes, let me grab one. All right, 9132 says, what are the benefits of plants and definition of nutrients that animal products don't have? Is there any protein substitute that can be considered all natural from meat?
As far as getting all our nutrients from plant foods, well, the only supplement I take is vitamin B12 and sometimes some vitamin D in the wintertime, but all my other nutrients I got from whole plant foods. And humans are not obligate carnivores. We don't need to eat animals or their secretions. And the way I see it, we have no right to use other animals for anything. So yeah, we can eat especially like plant sources that are especially known for lots of protein and amino acids are like beans, whole grains, kale, nuts and seeds. I like burritos and rice and beans and tofu. Pardon? Was that quinoa? Did you say?
I think that might have been peanut butter.
Oh, peanut butter.
Oh, quinoa.
I have quinoa once in a while, and peanut butter I have a lot. A lot of the foods we grew up with are accidentally vegan, like peanut butter and jam sandwiches. I still have them to this day, and that's a vegan meal. Yep.
Awesome.
Can
And I
ask
have another question.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask
Oh,
kind of when you have your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, what sort of jelly do you use? Is strawberry, blackberry?
Yeah, I like all kinds, and recently I was having strawberry because my sister-in-law made jam in her own kitchen.
Yeah.
So it's a jar of jam that she made, and it's very delicious. So I love when people, it's a do-it-yourself is a really wonderful thing. So when you can just make products at home, yeah.
Oh, great. Go ahead with the next question, Gilbert.
all right. Sarah121 asks, say you are stranded in the wild with no vegan options. Would it be okay to eat meat?
Yeah, well, the way I would look at it, you wouldn't be eating meat, you would be eating an animal. And who knows, maybe there'd be some way to find some sort of plant sources of nutrition. But if I was in a situation where I couldn't find any plant foods to eat and I couldn't find any dead animals around, I think that I would be open-minded to killing an animal and eating them, because I really like being alive. But I I've never been in that situation, and I think most of us, you know, around, I guess in the far north, you might find yourself in a situation like that. But the majority of the people I know have access to plant foods. Yeah, so they'll never find themselves in a situation like that.
All
Gotcha.
right. So I've got a question here from 9167 that says, "Hi John, what do you think about medicine that includes animal products?"
Yeah, like for instance, I'm double vaccinated against COVID-19, and some people are saying, John, why are you doing that? They were tested on animals, but and also I got for the first time ever this year, I got the flu shot, and so sometimes I'll use some modern medicine that was tested on animals or that has some animal ingredients, but it's not a perfect world yet, and so I think that. I can take the vaccinations against COVID-19, but speak out against testing on animals at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend, Amanda, who's been she's a scientist working on organs on chips, where it's an alternative to testing on animals, where they can test products on these little chips that have human cells. And so, yeah, we can push to end the use of animals and educate people. We have no right to use animals for anything, but at the same time, use some of these medications and things like that.
Very interesting.
All right. Next question comes from Bishop, who explains that they have had trouble with family members and their refusal to eat plant-based alternatives. And in the end, the question is, have you ever had to cut people out of your life due to their meat-loving tendencies? How do you do it?
Yeah, well, we all have to do what is right for us, and I can understand when some people, they have a hard time being around that, but I've had lots of practice. I've been vegan since 1998, and even still, everyone in my family still eats animals and their secretions, and it upsets me a lot, but I love my family very much. And one interesting thing about me is I don't believe in free will. I see all people as being products of their genetics, life experiences. And so it helps me to have empathy for everyone, where my family members, I look at them and I think, if I had their genetics and life experiences, I'd be eating animals too. And it helps me to have compassion for them. And some people, they're really mainstream in so many areas in life, and it seems like they'll always just do whatever is the norm. So the way to get these people to go vegan is just to get all the early adopters in our world, to get them to go vegan. And then once we have that critical number of vegans, then the people who just follow the crowd will also go vegan, because that's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you go to? So you're Canadian, so you don't have Thanksgiving, but do you go to?
Yeah, we have Canadian Thanksgiving.
So do you go to the Canadian Thanksgiving? Even though I imagine there's a lot of meat involved there, what's that like?
Oh yeah, like my family members, my parents especially, are older, and they're in their mid-70s, and I love them, and they won't be around forever. And family dinners are important to them, and so I'll go and participate, and I'll bring some plant foods for people to try. But when they do eat flesh from animals, I just kind of like ignore that, and I look at my own plates, and I just focus on the good. Like, hey, I'm with my family, and I love them. So,
Got it.
as far as getting people to go vegan, I've had more success with total strangers than with my own family. So, family can be really hard to get through to. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. So I have a question here from G Narrator. Hello, John. Do you support the vegan teacher and her comparisons of meat eating to slavery, the Holocaust, and 9/11?
Yeah, if like, for instance, if black people want to make the comparison of how we're treating animals to slavery, then that's up to them to do that. If Jewish people want to compare what's happening to animals to the Holocaust, they can do that. but it's not my place to do that. And that vegan teacher, I don't know that they're, they're certainly not black, and I don't know if they're Jewish or not. But I think that we don't have to compare what's happening to animals to terrible things that have happened to humans, because what's happening to animals is just bad enough as it is on its own. So we don't really need to make comparisons. I don't think. It's the fact that animals are being used and they're not consenting to this. We can't have a conversation with any animal and say, "Hey, is it okay if I, use you, if I kill you and eat your flesh?" We can't talk with them. We can't get consent from them. So there's no consent, and so that we have no right to use them.
Very interesting.
Thanks for all your questions, everyone. I'm having lots of fun. I hope you are too.
Well, I think we are. Do we have another question, Gilbert? I can pull up a question here. Well, Gilbert, I think, is looking for one. Let me see here. Hi, John, and this is from Charles. How should we navigate conflicts between veganism and indigenous culture, tradition, and practices? So I think he's referring to indigenous hunting and things like that. So how do we navigate that? And so what can you tell us
thank you
about
for
that?
your question. Well, I know some indigenous people who are vegan, and so when they want to have those conversations with fellow indigenous people, I think that's the best. And for me, I just want to, with everyone, it's not my place to tell anyone what to eat. It's just to share facts, and then they do with that information what they will. So even if I was having a conversation with an indigenous person, I'm not going to tell them what to do, how to live their life, but I can say, like, I can talk about factory farming, for instance, and how the animals are treated, and just empower people with information, and share my own personal story, how I went vegan and how it changed my life for the better. And so I think as long as I stick to the facts of how animals are being used, and then, I'm not telling anyone what to do. So I think that's a good way of going about it.
And the realities are just as bad as the atrocities.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I lost connection there for a minute, but I do have a question from Poplop. Hey, John, I want to convert to veganism, but I love the taste of meat. Any tips?
Well, for instance, I think when people say they love the taste of meat, it's often not the taste of the flesh from animals that they're in love with. For instance, a lot of people eat chicken wings, but if you were to take a wing from a chicken and just boil it and just eat it like that with no sauce on it or anything, a lot of people wouldn't find that very appetizing. So it's the fact that it's been deep fried and it's got sauce on it, and most barbecue sauce is vegan. So if flesh from animals tasted that great, why are we putting vegan sauce all over it and deep frying it? So all the things that people do with flesh from animals to make them taste better, we can do that with plant foods. You can take tofu or even cauliflower wings. You can take cauliflower and make them taste delicious like a wing from a chicken.
Interesting. We have a question from the YouTube comment section. They ask, Laurel asks, John, tell us more about your artwork, your collages, and your paintings. I think they're talking about some of the ones that you've done as backgrounds and videos, and some of the ones that you've sent out to people. How often do you spend doing that sort of art?
Yeah, I like it. I enjoy it a lot. I like anything I can do to help make people happy. I like it. But I think I like making music and videos a little bit more than painting. But I do paintings for people. I painted lots of pictures that I mailed to people of like cats and dogs and chickens and different animals, and then humans as well.
Yeah.
I've recently done a few paintings that I feel really badly about the death penalty. Canada abolished the death penalty in 1976, but in the U.S., a lot of people have been getting executed recently, and it breaks my heart. So I've done 3 paintings recently of people who have gotten executed, and I mailed the paintings to the loved ones of the people who got executed, and it really helps them just to show them that there are people who care and are mourning along with them. So yeah, paintings for people. And then I also have some art pieces that are on display in different public buildings like schools. I made a big collage about impaired driving, and it's on display in a school in Ontario. And there's a school for the blinds where I have some tactile art in Brantford, Ontario that's on the wall. So yeah, I have another piece that's at a local meditation center here in Niagara Falls.
Interesting.
So yeah, I have some of my art out in the community too.
What are your thoughts on foraging? And this question comes from let's see here. This comes from Tommy Stencil.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about that. I think it's very important knowledge to know like what's edible if you're out in the woods or something. And so yeah, I'd like to learn more about that. And I think definitely for anyone who's doing that, you wouldn't want to take everything, because there are wild animals who rely on that to survive. So say you found an area where there's some wild, fruits or veggies, yeah, have some, but just don't take it all because we want to leave a lot for other humans and other, animals.
And we don't want to break too much into the food chain where we're not welcome. Let's get another.
All right.
Oh, go ahead.
I've got a question here. From Hole, do you think that video gaming has led to a rise in cruelty towards animals? It's been a theory of mine for a while.
Like that violent video games have led to more cruelty to animals, or?
Yeah, I believe they mean like people getting lax morals from seeing all the violence all the time, and also like how hunting animals is just seen as like another resource, like a combination of that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. And I have read that violence in video games has not led to more violence in real life, and so that's where I'm presently what I'm presently thinking too. So it's not a concern of mine. I have a brother who plays lots of video games where he's shooting people, and he's never shot a person in real life. And just today, actually, because I protest a lot against horse-drawn carriages. We have that in Niagara. But I played a video game today. It was a VR game where I was in the back of a sleigh being pulled by reindeer, and Rudolph was at the front. And we flew around the city, and I threw presents down chimneys. But I know they're not real reindeers. It's all pretend. And so, yeah, I don't presently see that's a problem. That using animals in games or violence in games there's no proof that leads to more violence in real life.
Interesting. Do we have another question, Gilbert?
I do indeed. This one
Awesome.
is from Caspian Faith. What are your thoughts on lab-grown meats? Would you consider them to be vegan or not?
Yeah, I would consider them to be vegan. And I know there are some companies who are working on that and making them go mainstream, and I love that. I'm very excited about that because anything that leads to less suffering in the world, I'm all for that. So I don't see how eating lab-grown meat that would involve any cruelty to animals. And so, I think that's a good thing. But I don't think I would try it because I already don't miss eating flesh from animals at all. I love all the plant foods I eat. But for people who, like my family members, if they could have that alternative that involves no cruelty to animals, then I would be fine with them doing that.
All right. Here's a message from Bishop. What is your favorite vegetable? Least favorite?
Yeah, let's see. Well, I love broccoli. I have a song called Get Your Brock On, and that's one of my songs that's pretty popular. And I love broccoli a lot. Just today I had Brussels sprouts. I like them a lot. And I love kale. I'll have steamed kale, or sometimes I'll put kale in smoothies. Spinach I like in smoothies a lot too. It's hard to pick a favorite. I love all fruits and veggies.
Kale is my favorite.
I'm a
Yeah?
I'm a big fan of carrots, pickled carrots.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like carrots too.
But it definitely is hard to pick a favorite. I mean, they're all so delicious and nutritious.
I think plant foods have all the flavor. And like I said, some people say, oh, I love eating, animals. But then again, like even if someone has flesh from a cow, what do they put on top? Like vegan barbecue sauce and all kinds of spices. And they'll also put like mushrooms and and onions. They're putting all sorts of plant foods all over that. So you can put all those things on top of the vegan meats.
Yeah, I mean, who has a burger without lettuce? I mean, but it really is like, yeah, what's the point of having that meat patty there? When all the flavor is from the sauce, it is from the veggie.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now,
All right.
do you think? How much easier do you think it's become now to be a vegan as far as vegan options at restaurants and grocery stores are concerned? And what do you think the price? Do you think the price is it all exclusionary?
I think that I remember in the old days of being vegan, in 1998, I remember going to a fast food place and I'd order the veggie burger back then was just the bun and all the toppings, but no burger patty in it. So, so yeah, that was quite a long time ago. So now, most of these places have veggie burgers nowadays. And even just like going to my local variety store, I remember a long time ago, there were no plant-based milks in them at all.
Yeah.
But now at my local corner store, there's plant-based milks and in grocery stores, just the number of vegan products has exploded. But yeah, the price can be a little high. But I know once it gets more popular, I'm hopeful that the price will go down. But also, you don't really need to eat all the fancy vegan meats and vegan cheeses and all that to be vegan. Just basic foods, like if you get for instance, today in a slow cooker, I got a big 2-pound bag of chickpeas, and I cooked them in the slow cooker, and it took several hours, but now they're done. But if you get big bags of like beans and like lentils and rice and all that, then you can have a lot of really inexpensive meals.
Yeah, it's not. There's rice is vegan, and rice is one of the cheapest and healthiest foods out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Gilbert, do you have more questions?
I do indeed. Okay. So here's the question from my intern named Rapture. John, is there anyone you know, not necessarily personally, who you look up to as the ideal model of veganism? How have you taken their methods into your own practice?
Yeah, thank you. Well, my late friend Diane, who was one of my best friends ever, who I made lots of videos with, she was an example of a vegan who I really look up to and learned a lot from. And she, I feel that being vegan is not enough. We need to do activism too. So Diane did lots of activism as much as she could. And she was against all oppression. So when I visited her, she spent a lot of time reading books about other social justice issues, about like Black Lives Matter and about indigenous rights issues. And so I think it's important to be consistently anti-oppressive and to be against all oppression. So yeah, Diane was one of my heroes that I looked up to a lot. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. All right. I have another question from Jamie. I've seen bugs like crickets that are much more environmentally friendly compared to the meat industry. Do you consider bugs as vegan, and have you tried any? And if so, how is it prepared?
Yeah, well, I remember one time at a grocery store in Toronto, I saw a whole section that had a whole insect section. Like they had, I think it was it crickets, or I think that was the type of insect, but they had like pizza crust and all sorts of things made from insects. And I don't know why humans still have it in their heads, so many humans, that for protein we need to eat some kind of animal. So yeah, so crickets are being billed as being like a lot more environmentally friendly than eating cows. But like I said, humans are not obligate carnivores. We don't need to eat insects or any other animals to survive. If I was in a place where there were no plant foods and I had to eat some insects, then I would do that to survive, but we don't have to. Yeah. And I don't know why that has exploded in popularity, and I hope it ends, because you might look at a cricket and think, maybe look down on insects, but they're very, every cricket, their life is just as important to them as my life is to me, and this is their chance to be alive in the universe. And we need to practice the platinum rule and treat all beings as they'd like to be treated. And if I were a cricket, I wouldn't want someone to kill me and eat me. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, another question is from Sarah. Hey John, how do you deal with hate?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I've had lots of practice with that. A lot of people write some comments under my videos that aren't very pleasant, but I don't look at it like they hate me. I look at it like, they're maybe frustrated about trying to survive under late stage capitalism, and maybe they're going through a hard time, and hurt people hurt people. I always remember that. So maybe they're just trying to be hurtful to someone else, but it doesn't bother me. I have empathy for them, and if someone is trying to be hurtful, I wonder who hurt them. What are they going through? How are they suffering? And how can I help them get all their needs met? And so I think a lot of like quote unquote hatred is just really, they're just, going through a hard time and taking it out on someone else. But I think we need to meet hate with kindness and, end the cycle of hurt by always being kind to everyone.
Well said. Very well said.
So, John, I've got a question for you real quick.
All right.
Hey, Kath.
Hey, sorry.
I have
forgot my
another
microphone.
question from Rapture.
Let's have
go on.
Cass's question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So, I heard a question earlier that someone wanted me to ask. I live in Texas, and in
Caspian?
Texas we have a. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, and I live in Texas, and in Texas we have a real big problem with hogs, and the way they deal with that as of now is they have an open season on them, so hunters are able to go and kill hogs as much as they want throughout the whole year. What are your thoughts on culling invasive species like that? And do you have any alternatives you would like to suggest? That way they don't have to be murdered?
Yeah, well, definitely we're not going into places where there are a lot of humans and just slaughtering them. So, we shouldn't be doing that with other animals too. And I know humans have knocked the biosphere way out of whack, like a lot of natural predators we've killed. And it's like with humans, I don't know why, it's like the solution to every problem we face is, oh, let's kill. It's like, kill is how we deal with everything. And so, I'll have to think about this issue. I don't know if all the answers right away, but as far as like with the hogs in Texas, and other areas where they're, maybe doing something that's humans are having a problem with, maybe there's other ways we could address that and just that don't involve killing them, because, they have a right to live on the planet just as much as we do.
No, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Gilbert, go ahead with your question.
All right, my question was, let me get to it. It was from Rapture again. John, as I'm sure you're aware, poorer populations have less access to vegan substitutes for food because of either cultural or economic obstacles. How should we approach promoting availability of vegan foods for those in such situations?
Yeah, I love Food Not Bombs, that organization that goes to places and helps to feed people. And I was at there's a grocery store in Toronto called Feed It Forward, and it's a pay what you can grocery store. And I shopped there several times, and I just love that. They have a shopping basket, and you can fill it up with fruits and veggies. And then they have a minimum donation of $5. But for $5 you get a whole basket full of awesome stuff. So I wish we had more of that. And I love the Grow Food Not Lawns movement. If we had more of that, because lawns are, imagine if every lawn, it became a small garden instead. There are some areas where all the neighbors grow a different crop and they all share all the food with each other. And we could have
like
lots
an
of
edible garden?
yeah. And we could have like food forests and, have parks and just plant all kinds of fruit trees and community gardens. And food is a human right. We need food for everyone.
So, what do you think are some ways that we can help establish these urban gardens in these community gardens? I mean, is it rooftop gardens, or what do you think a good solution is for people who are living inside an apartment?
Oh, definitely. Rooftop gardens would be really fantastic. I've seen that. I was out at a rooftop garden in Toronto. It was really beautiful. And I know that even in an apartment, there are some more simple things that people can do, like sprouting. For instance, you can get a big bag of mung beans and have some sprouters, and you can grow lots of sprouts even in a little apartment.
There's always
And,
room to sprout. They said, yeah, there's always room to sprout.
And I guess just talking with people who have lands, and I know some people have worked out arrangements where they'll go to someone who has some property, maybe like a house somewhere, and they'll say, "Hey, if I can have a section of your lawn where I
Sure.
can garden it and grow lots of fruits and veggies, then I'll share it with you, and then it can be a mutually beneficial arrangement."
Yeah,
So maybe have more of that.
that makes sense. So find areas where groups of people can all just share the land.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Speaking of sharing, people ask me politically,
Uh-huh.
what, like, am I a communist or an anarchist or something? But I always bring it back to, I love the idea of living in a shareocracy.
Yeah.
So every time we share, we help create a culture of sharing.
And sharing is caring, after all. Gilbert, do you have another question?
All right. Yes, I have one from Bishop. Do you think veganism has changed you in any way? I personally think that I've become more empathetic and it has helped with relationships at work.
Oh, that's very, very nice. Yeah, I think it's helped me become more empathetic too. And it helps me to appreciate food more too, because back before I was vegan, I couldn't really think so much about what I was eating or who I was eating. You know, because if you know, say like you're eating a wing from a chicken and you look at the cartilage and the muscle and the bones, you start to think, wow, came from someone, and you start to think about their life. And
Yeah.
if you think about that too much, you can't really enjoy eating because you get grossed out. So with plant foods, I can actually think about what I'm eating, and so I enjoy the food a lot more, and I feel healthier. I'm 51, and I still have lots of energy to do all the things I want to do, and I can
Yeah.
go for long bike rides and that sort of thing. So, and yeah, with my empathy, I think that having more empathy for non-human animals has led to me having more empathy for humans as well.
Yeah, we have a question from the YouTube chat room. This is from Evan Williams. They ask, how does the shareocracy differ from communism? Because in many ways they do seem quite similar, but how do they differ?
Well, I think the reason I mentioned shareocracy is because the word communism already has a lot of baggage and a lot of connotations to
Oh,
a lot
for
of
sure.
people. And so when people hear communism, a lot of people are terrified right off the bat. So it kind of shuts them down. But shareocracy is a word that people haven't heard of so much, so it kind of piques their curiosity a little more. But with communism, I know that, like I was reading, for instance, I don't know much about China, but I was reading that the Chinese Communist Party is communist in name only, and it's not really communist. Like I've read that China is more like state capitalism. So like it seems like a lot of the countries where we think they're communist countries, it's not really communism.
Sure.
And I've read that there's never been a real communist country. So, but I kind of stake away from talking about communism so much because it just shuts people down. Like, so I talk about a shareocracy because it sounds more interesting, to a lot of people.
Wow, great answer. Great answer. Do we have another question, Gilbert?
Yes, this one's also from Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for all the wonderful questions. What is your stance on like feeding pets meat versus like supplements? What do you think of that whole debate? Because I know that's been a very big thing on the internet lately.
Well, from what I've read, I know this is very controversial, even amongst a lot of vegans. When you say that cats and dogs can thrive on plant foods, people are shocked because they know that cats are obligate carnivores. But from what I've read, and it makes sense to me, is that in modern food production, that the cat food it's all the stuff that isn't considered fit for human consumption. So it's all the stuff that humans don't want to eat, and it's so heavily processed and cooked and everything that they have to add synthetic taurine to that cat food. So if you and all of a bunch of other nutrients. So if you already have to add synthetic taurine and all these other nutrients to the flesh and secretions from animal cat food, then why not just add those supplements to plant-based cat foods and make it nutritionally adequate? Because I've read that cats, they don't need to eat flesh from animals, they need the nutrients. So it's not certain ingredients they need, it's certain nutrients they need. So, and I know I have done a lot of couch surfing, and I've stayed in households where there are cats who are fed 100% plant-based diet, and they're thriving. They're very, very healthy. and
true.
dogs too. So yeah, I'm really big on feeding cats and dogs a nutritionally adequate plant-based diets.
That's
Cass,
true. I
could,
actually
I
did a
was going to
video
say,
on
Cass,
that.
could you tell John a little bit about the experiment that you
Oh yeah,
conducted
yeah,
on this? Because
sure. Yeah,
you're a guardian of a cat, right, correct?
I am. I do share a house with a cat. Two actually. I found them when they were strays and they were malnourished, so I helped them out, and they decided to stick around. Anyway, I got into a little debate with someone on the server about a week or so ago on if cats would prefer a vegan diet to a plant-based or to a meat-based diet. And I actually I went to the store and I got a pound of ground beef, and I grabbed a bunch of spinach that I normally feed my cat. And I placed both of the plates in front of him, and my cat went straight over to the spinach and started munching away. So I took a video of that and I put it onto YouTube. I'll send it to you later if you'd like to see it. But it was a nice little bit of vindication there.
That these cats really can enjoy these plant-based diets,
Yeah,
just like
well,
humans can.
one type of cat food that I stay with some friends who have 3 vegan cats,
Yeah.
and they gave their cats a type. There's a company called Vicado, VECADO,
Vicado.
for like vegan cat and dog. So Vicado, and then they also sprinkled nutritional yeast on top of it, of the cat food, and the cats really likes the nutritional yeast too.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah. uh, this question comes from Charles. John, do you think we should be working on a COVID vaccine for animals like deers, who we recently found out can also catch the virus? I believe, and they go on to say, I believe the focus on human vaccines is a result of speciesism. Do you think that's true? Do you think we should expand our focus on vaccines to animals as well? What are your thoughts, John?
Wow, I have to read more about that. Thank you for letting me know about that. I'm gonna do some more reading. Yeah, by all means, more vaccines to help animals who aren't human too, and also one thing, really big thing that's very frustrating about the COVID-19 situation
Yeah.
is that governments are really pushing for people to get vaccinated, and I appreciate that, but we also have to get to the root of the problem, where eating animals causes epidemics. So we need to have a lot of public education going on and why we need to stop eating animals. And so and all the subsidies towards factory farming and all that, we're just putting all these resources towards creating new epidemics. So yeah, we got to stop eating animals, and also capitalism is very problematic as far as how COVID spread so fast by having so many people working at jobs and
Yeah.
endangering their lives for jobs that aren't really even necessary. Like, I think people are in denial. There's a very high percentage of jobs, I think, in our world that are not necessary jobs. So I'm in favor of a universal basic income, so people, can spend more time at home working on things that enrich their lives.
Very interesting. Gilbert, do we have another question?
I do indeed. This one is from Clancy.
Awesome.
Hey John, do you think that veganism is a necessary step to the establishment of social justice?
Yeah, definitely. I think that we all agree that it would be nice to live in a world where everyone has all their needs met and everyone is happy, safe, and free. And and when we think of everyone, we have to include all. We have to literally include everyone and not just think of humans, not be human centric. We've got to think of all the other animals too, how their lives are just as important to them as our lives are to us. So I think, yeah, with veganism, it's we all eat every day, and so 2, 3, 4 times a day we have a chance to live our values and to treat others as they want to be treated. And, peace begins on your plate, as they say.
Awesome. Do we have another question, Gilbert?
Yes, let me pull one up here. Okay. What do we do with people who just won't listen? From Angel.
Yeah, what do we do with people who just won't listen? Well, I know, like, one of the habits from the book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the habits is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So with people who just won't listen, we could maybe try that approach and try to listen to them first. And if we spend a lot of time listening to them and as far as like say they don't want to listen about going vegan, we could listen to them talk about any like what sorts of foods they like to eat and maybe how they feel about animals and all of that. And maybe if we spend a lot of time listening to them first, maybe they'll be more open to listening to us a little bit. And food talks, if you can find out, like say they love lasagna and you made a vegan lasagna that just blew them away, that could be really impressive. So I think just sharing food with people
Put your
can
money,
be very powerful.
Put your money where their mouth is.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. I think that's a great point. Do you have another question, Gilbert?
Yes, this one's also from Rapture again.
Mm-hmm.
John, thank you so much for answering the questions. So far, you've been very informative and entertaining. Do you think that it's ethical for humans to enforce vegan diets on animals in captivity who would otherwise seek out meat in their natural habitats?
Yeah, animals in captivity, maybe like are you like speaking of, for instance, like cats and like rescue dogs and cats and that sort of thing, or animals in captivity?
I think it meant like animals kept in like prison, like lions and tigers.
Oh yeah. First of all, yeah, they should not be in captivity. It's important for us all to recognize that zoos are prisons for animals, and so we need to end zoos and have all animals be free. And even with dogs and cats, I think that we need to evolve past domesticating animals, and it's not a dog or a cat's job to be a companion to a human. So obviously, we got to rescue cats and dogs who are already in existence because they need a home. But we do not need to be supporting breeders and breeding more animals into existence. So eventually, if we stop breeding animals and we get animals spayed and neutered, then we could reach a point in our world where all animals are wild animals again.
Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the utopia we're looking for. Gilbert, can you get just one or two final questions for us?
Well,
Yes.
I got a question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead,
ahead.
Cass.
What's your favorite vegan meal to make at home?
Oh yeah, I don't really have much routine as far as foods go. I'm open to anything. I guess a really common thing would be just pasta. It's so quick and easy. Oh, I like, as long as it's whole grain pasta, but I like all kinds of pasta. Well, today for dinner I had spaghetti, and sometimes I like to make my own sauce. Where if I just get a bunch of tomatoes and throw them in a blender, then just dump that on top. So it's a really quick and easy meal. So probably pasta is one I have the most often.
I gotcha. Well, Gilbert,
Pretty good to me.
what's your question?
All right, I'm going to ask two final questions.
Awesome.
The first one is, hey John, do you think veganism is an only food lifestyle, or does it go beyond just the meals?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it goes way beyond just meals. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been protesting a lot against horse-drawn carriages here in Niagara, and so veganism it involves all the different ways that humans use animals. We're against all of that. So I also protest against marine lands. So yeah, vegans recognize that animals are not ours to use for anything, not for food, clothing, entertainment, experiments, or anything else. So it's important to not buy products tested on animals. But it's not a total like black and white world. There are gray areas where some people, they follow it to such an extent they would say no to getting vaccinated against COVID-19. But there are some situations where we have to be a little flexible. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad I got double vaccinated.
Well, we need to follow the science at the end of the day,
Yes. And so we keep pushing for alternatives to testing on animals. We can reach a point where we can comfortably take vaccines and know they weren't tested on animals.
Great. Did you have one more question, Gilbert?
I do. This final one is from Angel. What would you tell the people out there that claim that there's a humane way to kill animals?
Yeah, I would say, is there a humane way to kill you? Like I feel that there's no humane way to kill me because I want to be alive. So the way I look at it, there's no humane way to end the life of someone who does not want to die.
Yeah. Oh, that's very informative. Thanks again, John, for coming on this Q&A. We really appreciate it.
Sure, thank you very much. And I just wanted to say I love all of you.
Oh, good.
We love you too, John.
We love
Yeah.
you too, John, and we'd love to have you back on for another Q&A another one of these days, because it was very informative.
It was
Thank you
great.
very much. Anytime at all. Thank you, everyone. Yeah,
I'm
anytime.
Still waiting on
And,
that collab, by the way, Norman
Oh,
John.
oh yeah, we'll have to. I'll get on to talk to you about that, John. I've been having some ideas for what we can do for the musical collab. I was thinking maybe an anti-gun song or something. But I have
Sure.
to I have to think about it a little bit. But anyway, thanks everybody
Yeah.
for watching the John. Oh, go ahead.
well, if there's a moment, just say something really quick
Oh,
about
go ahead.
the verdicts with speaking of guns with Kyle Ritzenhouse.
Oh, please.
And we all know that if he had been a black man, that it would have been a very, very different outcome. Like,
Oh, my
obviously
God.
first it wouldn't even have gone to court because he would have just gotten shot by police right there on the street. And if it had gone to court, he'd be in prison for a very, very long time, maybe the rest of his life. So, we obviously all know that racism is a big, big issue, and we got to work on just changing the whole system. We need a system change big time, and the justice system, especially in the U.S., is just horribly unjust.
Wow, very.
I was saying earlier today that
Very well said, John.
The fact that Kyle was deemed not guilty shows there's a big flaw in the justice system, and one of our interns made up the point saying, no, this isn't a flaw, it's actually a feature, given that
Yeah.
white people get off on these things.
Yeah.
It's a lot
And
easier, and that really
it
that really
sticks with
changed my
you.
outlook on it. It is a feature, not a flaw.
And then there was just one more
Yeah.
thing I wanted to say, John, before we go. Is there anything you wanted to plug? You're on Patreon. What's the best place for people to find your stuff? Facebook, YouTube, or what do you think?
Yeah. If you look me up on Facebook and YouTube. I do have a Patreon, but I know times are hard for people. If you happen to be a millionaire or a billionaire or something like that, if you want to throw a few bucks my way, it would help with paying rents and that sort of thing. Because I have an apartment
Sure.
right now. I couch there full time for 6 years, but then the pandemic hit, and now I'm living somewhere, so now I have rent to pay every month. So
Yeah, it
But,
definitely can weigh down on you.
but mainly on YouTube and Facebook are the places where I'm most active, and I always love connecting with anyone.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this, John. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.